Welcome to Box Out Banter. I'm Chris Okamura. Jordan Christmas. First week of the NBA season. Very exciting. But Jordan,
yes, sir.
we have this fire track going on behind us right now.
Yeah, this track, shout out to my college roommate, one of my best friends, Alex Diaz. He's a huge music nerd. He studies music. He has an ear for this stuff. Honestly, one of the best ears for music that I know. And so I had to make this track very reminiscent of the late 90s, early 2000s NBA Jam type of feel that I grew up with. I was a big NBA hang time guy on the Nintendo 64, play the arcade games and the NBA Jam arcade games. And so, you know, it's his first time, funny enough, making like a track like this, kind of like a hip hop hybrid mix.
He nailed it.
And he doesn't really do that stuff. And within this is the second try pretty much, this track that you're hearing. And it was awesome. Did a little few tweaks. He also tweaked it a little bit and it's awesome. Shout out to Alex, man.
Yeah, it's super great. And when you showed it to me, I got immediate, like you said, NBA Jam vibes, NBA Street vibes.
Yeah, when you hear the first 10 seconds, you start doing the head bob. You're just like, oh,
yeah,
okay,
and you're feeling
all
it.
Right. Yeah, and you're feeling it. Yep. And then it gets into it, and you're like, oh, okay. Like it's an awesome track. So shout out to Alex. And then you, sir, went in with the content, making
it
god tier
me.
level video.
The music inspired me. So it started out, I think the first time you sent it to me, I think the next day I sent you the splash screen of like our logo and our intro in a style of like an old NES, Super NES game.
Yeah.
With a start button and things like that. And so that's how it started. And it was pretty funny. And then I was originally going to make just a static image of the NBA Jam team select screen with just our pictures in it, which I thought it would be funny.
Yeah, when you asked me to send you a picture of myself, I was like, oh, I have a feeling where I know where he's going with this.
So yeah, it started out with just the static image, and then as I started going down the rabbit hole, because I needed to build each element of it, right? So I was like, all right, as I'm going through these elements, I was like, oh, I can make this move. I can animate this. And then I was like, man, you know what would be really cool if instead of just our picture, you had to like scroll down through other teams to get to us, and maybe you go past, you go past it once and go back up. And then I was like, man, you know what? That'd be really cool. And then let me see if I can do that. And then it just took me a couple more hours, and I got it done. And it was one of those things where you're like in the weeds making it, and I was like, man, I don't know how this is gonna look. And then when I exported it, I was like, holy shit, I nailed this.
Yeah, it's like whenever you're done making a YouTube video or something, like for me, like whenever I'm done putting it together and I'm not sure, I'm just like, oh, I don't know, did I mess up here? And then you watch it and you're just like, yeah, no, this is pretty fire. So like if you go to our Box Out Banter Twitter account, it should be pinned up there. You'll see the video. All the team selections are funny. Like, so NBA Jam, NBA Hang Time, usually it's a team of two, it's 2-on-2. And so you go through the selection menu and it's different podcasts, and it's all ingested fun, but they have it's stats of each podcast. Like we had the mismatch on there with Kevin O'Connor and Chris Vernon's pictures up there with stats. It was honestly, like the level of detail you put into it, I was like, damn, like I need to get on that level of photoshopping and effects. I'm still new at it. I'm more of the audio video editor type, not the Photoshop. I stink at that stuff usually. Like it's usually really bad. It's like you'll see like the edges where I'm cutting out pieces, or like you'll see they're still there and stuff. It's really rough, but I need to get on your level.
Yeah, man. It took years of kind of getting practice of it and trial and error, right? But it was a couple hours of me looking at the NBA Jam screen and then looking at what I was working on and being like, all right, what moves, what doesn't move, what flashes, what color changes, all kinds of stuff. And I got it pretty close. Yeah. But looking at it now, it's like so satisfying to watch. It's just like, man, I could look at this forever. And then it got me thinking, I would play the hell out of an NBA or like sports podcast 2-on-2.
2-on-2. I mean, I still got the left hook going. People, it's funny. The most whenever I used to play pickup hoops, the comp that I would get the most. yeah, pre-pandemic, and also when I was a tad bit younger in my 20s, the comp that I would get was Zach Randolph. But I think the reason I got that is because I really had a left hook and I could barely jump. So I think that's the only reason I got those comparisons. But no, Zach is obviously, we're in no comparison here. Zach is obviously universe is better than me. But that was the comp I got in my ballpark days. But I think it was more because I couldn't jump and I was a lefty more than the skill itself.
Yeah, I would get JJ Redick a lot because again lefty, and I would get the I shoot and I'm pretty scrappy on defense. And
JJ Redick's right. JJ Redick's righty.
Who am I thinking of? Corver? Is Corver righty?
You might be thinking of Kennard.
Oh God. Well, so let's get into the season. So what?
Yeah, let's get into.
So we've had about 3 to 4 games depending on the team worth of NBA basketball.
One if you're the Oklahoma City Thunder and or Houston
and the Houston Rockets. There's some games going on right now, but like what is your takeaway from the season? What things are sticking out to you?
All right, so I feel like this shouldn't have to be said, but I want to throw out the big caveat so we never have to bring this up for the rest of this damn podcast. It's only 3 games in.
Yeah,
stuff is going to change. We don't want to overreact.
This is with the things in mind that it's very, very, very early.
Yes. And as much as we want to say we don't want to overreact, everybody's really trying to like hold back from like not wanting to overreact. We're just commenting on what we see. And like sometimes there can be little starts of trends you find that could manifest throughout a season. Right. But I have a few takeaways. One, the slate of Christmas Day games, they sucked, honestly.
Yeah, there are a lot of blowouts.
Honestly, like I was looking this up too. I think 2015 was the last time where the majority of the Christmas Day games were actually good. But I did learn you could still like pick up a few things here and there. I was telling you before we were recording this, that I was hanging out with my family on Christmas Day, nice in quarantine. Got a little day drinking going with a nice glass of wine, and then the wine took me out about. I missed the Pelicans Heat game. I had to rewatch that one, and I had to rewatch some of the back end of the first half of the Nets Celtics and the third quarter because at that point the wine took me out, and so I slept for part of that game. So I had to rewatch it. But dude, we talked about it in this podcast before, and I just wanted to see it. And it preseason gave me good signs, but I am very comfortable with changing my Eastern Conference favorite this early in the season. I just needed to see it to believe it. People can call me late to the party or whatever, but the Brooklyn Nets to me are the favorites in the Eastern Conference. Kevin Durant looks like he's fine. He might have lost a little bit of a vertical leap, but he was never a vertical leaper in the first place. In the game against the Celtics on Christmas Day, Durant had a baseline drive and dunk on Jason Tatum, where maybe 2016 Kevin Durant would have gotten a little bit higher, but I'm nitpicking. Like this dude
he looks incredible.
He had the handle, he had the pull-up game going, he had the post fadeaway game going. He looks like he's 100% back or close to it as possible. And the Nets are committing themselves to the defensive end. I know it's early in the season, but the Nets are second in defensive rating, and Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant seemed to have recommitted themselves to the defensive end of the floor. They lost a weird game against the Hornets yesterday, a game that I rewatched earlier today. But if you just look at the Nets, they are just loaded with offensive talent. And it's not just Durant and Irving, but Joe Harris is now getting wide open shots off weak side. Off weak side, he's shooting open weak side corner threes. Spencer Dinwiddie, although that's going to be a
huge injury to me.
I think that's going to be a huge injury because while the Nets do have depth, I think Dinwiddie was the one guy you cannot lose because the Nets don't really have a backup guard at ball handler. You could put Karis LeVert there, but Karis LeVert has his own role as kind of like the scoring supercharger, right? Spark plug. Like Spencer Dinwiddie can play make a little bit. He could shoot off the dribble. He can get into the lane. He's a slasher. And that knee injury that we now know is a partially torn ACL, that's going to be huge. But I think if fully healthy, even without a Dinwiddie, I think the Nets are the favorite in the East.
Yeah, so totally agree with you. My biggest takeaway was I love Karis LeVert as like your Lou Williams off the bench. When he leads that second unit,
I think
it's
he's
terrifying.
overqualified to be.
Oh yeah,
I think he's overqualified. He could start on a lot of teams, but that dude as a sixth man, he was gonna do some great stuff. But now I think he's gonna start. Don't you think?
probably now with the injury concern.
Yeah,
I
with
would
the
assume
injury.
so.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean, the thing is, him coming off the bench on that second unit was terrifying because he was destroying second units.
yep.
The thing that I noticed going back to even to yesterday, I like the Hornets. I really do. And I know we've talked a lot about them and I've watched a lot of them, but
I have too.
I like the Hornets. They have a good energy. When LaMelo is in there, they haven't been using him a ton, but when he's in there, there's like a different kind of energy. Rozier's been on fire to start the season. Graham's been great. PJ Washington's been great. Gordon Hayward's been really good at settling them down in the half court, but he's not limiting them in the fast break. Like they're running, and he's just kind of hanging back. Yeah. And then if they slow down, if they get messed up, he just slows it down, top of the key, and just runs the offense, which is perfect role for him at this stage in his career. And he's playing great. The only thing is like you hope he doesn't get hurt. But as of right now, I like the Hornets more than I thought I would have, and I don't think they're going to be as bad as I thought they were going to be either. And that kind of goes into another thing too. I think all the rookies this year are playing fantastic. There's a lot of rookies that are playing real good basketball right now.
Yeah. Actually, I was gonna say I'm actually kind of lukewarm on the Hornets more than I thought they would be. I think their offense will get a little bit more to the middle of the pack. Again, it's 3 games in, but it looks like I think their defense has potential to be really terrible. And I was thinking about this before the podcast, but I think the Hornets still might end up being bad anyway. Because I know we were talking about like I wouldn't have signed Gordon Hayward. I would have just went all young and try to go for the Cade Cunningham sweepstakes. But honestly, I think the defensive personnel they have, I think it's terrible. Bismack Biyombo being your starting center is not. I mean, yeah, I guess you have an NBA rotational big at the center spot, but Biyombo's not really good, and you still have.
Also, having been watching Hornets games, I had no idea that the Hornets people call him Biz, and I was like, "That's a cool nickname."
Oh yeah, Raptors fans called him the father after he had a few good playoff games. But I like PJ Washington especially when they go super small. I just think that lineup lacks rim protection. When I was watching the Nets Hornets game earlier today, yeah, the Nets only scored 104 points, but if you looked at the shots they were getting, they were just open shots, just off penetration, off transition. I think the Hornets defense has a chance to be really bad. And I think the offense will get middle of the pack. I think LaMelo's going to have some really high highs and some really low lows, because I think we talked about it, that's just the type of prospect he is. He's very highly talented, but he still has to iron out some very, very big holes in his game. And
the shot's more consistent though than I thought it was going to be to start.
The mechanics and stuff, yeah. It seems like he's gotten better. Like his legs aren't going out on an adventure every time he takes a jumper, like he was overseas.
Yeah. But he takes some terrible shot selection.
And then the combination of Rozier and Graham as your backcourt, and Graham has kind of been, up and down a little bit to start. I want to see if he could keep his form up from last year. But that backcourt defensively, I don't think is good at all either. So the Hornets might be still bad anyway. Rookies though, you're right, dude. Like the rookies so far they've been impressive. Precious Achiuwa for Miami the Heat have already started like putting Achiuwa on guys like Zion and shit. And, he's holding his own. He's 6'9", 230. Like, that's solid, and he's definitely a Heat player personified. Tyrese Halliburton here in Sacramento. Luke Walton's already throwing him in closing lineups. Anthony Edwards, although he had a bad game against the Lakers yesterday, he's kind of showing that like if you get him downhill, like seems like the Wolves are going to let him play to his strengths, which is good.
And he's doing a great job leading the second unit too. Like he's doing a great job with that. James Wiseman getting
James Wiseman looks James Wiseman at the end of the year we might just be I think Ryan Russillo said it on his podcast the other day, but we might be looking at the end of the season saying like, why wasn't Wiseman like the clear-cut number one guy? Because even the stuff that like are his flaws or the stuff he needs to work on, when he does it in game, you're just like, damn, like that's impressive. Like him, doing a fake dribble handoff to Steph on opening night and then driving to the basket for a layup with agility. And it's like,
or even just taking like the mid-range jumper, the three. He shot a contested three. He
has good touch and he's already athletic. He can run the floor. He's a good kid. It seems like he's very attentive. Draymond already said like this kid's going to be special, and Draymond's not one to just throw praise onto anybody. And it's, I do feel bad for Steph and the Warriors, though. I imagine we'll talk about them soon. But Denny Avdia starting for the Wizards too, on a team that I think is going to look like a playoff. I think a 4th or a 5th seed at least. Like that's the ceiling of this team at least. And Avdia has just been solid, and these rookies have just been solid. And I think that's what the ceiling of this draft class, or not the ceiling, but that's what we expected from this draft class. Not necessarily a star player coming in and wowing you right away, but a lot of these guys are contributing.
Right. Even something like Obi Toppin in the game and a quarter that he played looked solid. Cole Anthony looked great coming off the bench. We'll talk about Markelle Fultz in a second too.
There's a Fultz renaissance going on apparently.
Yeah, it's
word
weird.
Out in the street.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like all of these guys look like solid NBA players. The Thunder are waiting. The Thunder are waiting to unleash Pokashevsky. They're just holding them off. The league's not ready, so
the league is not ready for Pokashevsky once he figures it out and gains 30 pounds.
They're just waiting. The Thunder are waiting. They're trying to tank this year, so they don't want to like overwhelm the league.
Along with all the draft picks that Thunder have accumulated, they should accumulate as much pasta so they can have Pokashevsky eat it every day. Speaking of rookies, the Cavs have been really fun to watch these 3 days, and I know they've played bad teams, but I think I might have underestimated their ceiling as a play-in team. I think JB Bickerstaff's not offensive revamp, because that implies like the coach completely just revamped everything, but it seems like there's a very big difference, especially when he took over last year after the whole Jim Beeline fiasco and disaster and thugs and slugs and people making bone slugs and harmony jokes, all that. I think what has happened is, one, Darius Garland seems to be so far taking the next step in his game. He's become a better passer. I think the Cavs weirdly have found themselves with a bevy of big men who know how to pass. Larry Nance he was underrated since he got to Cleveland. But
do you see his tweet today, by the way?
Sexland? Something about
Sexland?
Well, I want to give proper credit. I think the Chase Down podcast, which is one of the more popular niche Cavs podcasts, they were selling Sexland t-shirts at the beginning of the
it's incredible. It's such a great,
and so they came up with that term first, but Nance did put it on blast today, and I like that. But I think with Nance, Drummond, and Love, they have a combination of passing hubs around the high post and Garland taking the next step as a playmaker, that it's more so put Colin Sexton in a finisher role. And Colin Sexton has been a very, very efficient offensive player since the All-Star, or since January last year, and he's become a great 3-point shooter. And in his role, if he's a finisher as opposed to a secondary ball handler where you're asking him to play make a little bit also, I think that's a good role for him. I think he has like I think right now he has like an over 60 true shooting percentage. It's something wild like that. This backcourt has been, if you're looking for a confirmation of in theory, Garland Sexton backcourt to work, you were kind of seeing it a little bit. Obviously, I don't want to overstate the Cavs. I still think they're going to be at the bottom of the East, but I think they might be a play-in team this year. And also I forgot to mention why I brought them up in the first place. Isaac Okoro, another great rookie. He played in a double overtime game against the Pistons where he scored 0 points but played 42 minutes and was a plus 16. And if that doesn't describe to you the type of player that the Cavs drafted, like rookies just don't score at all. When rookies don't score in a game, they usually don't do anything else because they're rookies and they're inexperienced.
They don't know how to do anything else.
And they don't know what to do. Okoro played 42 minutes in a double damn overtime game as a rookie and was a plus 16, scoring 0 points. That tells me something about this kid. What I already knew about this kid.
Yeah. But I mean, remember, we talked about Okoro and how much we loved Okoro in the draft special, and we talked about it a lot when he got drafted. Again, my concern with him was always like, who's going to get him the ball? And it seems like that's the case now, where he's having trouble finding his spot on offense. But defensively, he's doing a great job. He's doing all the extra little things that you need to do, and I still think he's a great player. I just think it's a weird fit with him. But again, I might be wrong about the Cavs. I think they're going to be better than I thought they were going to be.
They have a lot more passers than you would think. I think they are averaging over 30 assists a game. That is not going to continue for the Cavs. No. But I think if Garland continues to sustain this playmaking, and with the bevy of passing bigs the Cavs had where they could run dribble handoffs and things like that, I think Okoro will find his offensive role a little bit easier, I guess. There are still fit concerns for sure, but I think it might be a little bit more pieced together than what we initially thought, because I had him as a lottery hunting team, and they still might be lottery hunting, but I think the play-in is not out of the question with this team.
That's fair. But I think that goes to the East too. Like, I think the bottom half of the East is really weird. But
it is.
I do want to talk about the Magic, because the Magic are surprising me a little bit. I think they're a lot more competitive than I thought they were going to be, and it kind of comes down to Markelle Fultz kind of having this huge glow up. I don't know where this is coming from, but
a little bit.
He's averaging 20 points a game. He's shooting. The thing that comes to mind is his shooting percentages.
Yep. Still shooting 25% from three, but in terms of 2-point field goals, I think right now he's shooting 53.7%, which is obviously a career high for him. We'll see if he can.
He's shooting 86% from the line.
Yeah, and
really good.
It's a 56% true shooting percentage. It would be right around league average last year. I don't know if he's gonna average 20 points per game. He's always been a good passer and a rebounder for his size. I think what's impressing people right now is that he continues his improvement defensively, because he's always had the physical tools to be a defender. And that was the knock on Markelle. And what I saw from him coming out of college is that when he has the physical tools to be a great defender, he's smart. He can read passing lanes, but is he always engaged? Can he get the nuances of an NBA scheme down, et cetera, et cetera? It seems like he's making more strides on that end, plus not being a complete liability so far as an offensive player. I still want to see it. And also, again, he's still shooting 25% from three, and he's taking almost 3 a game now, which is also a career high so far to this point. It's just really hard for me to justify the extension that he got when an NBA guard averaged.
It's hard for a Sixers fan to accept the pain. I know.
If he becomes good, I'll be happy for the kid. And yes, I will be pissed not pissed that he got better, but I will be pissed at the missed opportunity.
Right.
Because
I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying not to be harsh on the kid here, because I think he's still a talented player. I just wouldn't have given him that extension. But it looks like Cole Anthony and Fultz could.
That combination is really good.
Especially if Cole Anthony could, at least be a really good shooter from three, so you won't have to worry about Markelle's development as much as a 3-point shooter, because he does legitimately bring other stuff to the table. But
the biggest thing for Fultz with me is the free throw shooting, because the way that he plays with the shiftiness and the movement and his handle, and the way he finished, he's still a great finisher at the rim.
He's shooting 92% from the line on 4.3 attempts per game in the games so far.
I even sold him short. So the thing is, the thing with Fultz is he's with the way that he plays and his style of game, even if his shooting gets better, his bread and butter is going to be going to the basket and getting to the line. And so if he can just hit free throws, that's still extremely valuable to have, even if he's coming off the bench or even if he's just a rotation guy. It becomes extremely valuable for him to just be able to hit free throws.
Yep. And the Magic, they still have, I mean, Steve Clifford is a good defensive coach. He's going to have them playing great defense. Everybody kind of stopped believing in the Magic because it's always been, great defense, mediocre to blah offense. Right now they're per cleaning the glass, they're 7th in offense, 12th in defense, and they still have Vucevic. It kind of sucks that Isaac isn't they'd be
really interesting
with Jonathan Isaac out there. But yeah, the Magic, they're kind of putting some things together in this young season. Now, again, I want to caution with all of these teams again. I did see the process Sixers, the first year of the process. I did see them start off like in their first 5 games. I saw them start off really well. Everybody remembers the Michael Carter Williams game where in his rookie debut, he just annihilated everything and and got a victory over the defending champion Miami Heat. But it's still at the beginning, it's good vibes all around to start the season. Going to the West Side, James Harden is still fucking good at basketball.
Yeah. He's really good. And the thing is, I'm kind of sad that he wants to leave because this team is so interesting. I love the Christian Wood pickup. He's balling out. He looks great.
Mm-hmm. He's been looking good in the preseason too.
Yeah, and the thing is, we haven't seen Wall or Cousins yet because of the COVID protocols. But like, I think that they looked great in the preseason too. This roster is so interesting, and I think it's honestly one of the deeper teams that Harden's had in Houston.
Yeah, like I was saying last episode, I think it's a shame that, I mean, if Harden wants to leave, that's his prerogative. He could do whatever he could do whatever he wants with his career. But I just think this team would be so much fun to watch because they have Harden has another offensive dynamic that he hasn't really played with before. Obviously last year the Rockets' identity was, take out the center. We're going to spread everything out for Harden and Russ, but like John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins pick and pop, like that's a nice interesting wrinkle. Like I saw whenever Harden played with Wall and Cousins in that preseason game against the Spurs, Harden was just naturally filling lanes in transition and getting open threes organically because Wall was pushing the ball. They still have PJ Tucker, Danuel House. They're deeper now. They have more wings. I just think the Rockets, they're not going to be a contender. But obviously Harden's a walking playoff berth. He might have a deeper roster. I don't know if the talent is necessarily as great, obviously, but it's more full of NBA players.
Right.
But the Rockets, I mean, Harden was out partying, going to strip clubs, going to stuff maskless, and came in looking like me after like the holiday season and still dropped 44 and 17. Like that's nobody who does that. And it's always tough because Harden's 31. It's always tough to know how his game is going to age because he's not, his explosiveness and his athleticism is in the fact that he can stop faster than everybody else, like his de-acceleration. So I don't know how that ages. Like I think there's parts of Harden's game where I'm like, that's going to age well. He's always going to be able to step back from 3. He's always going to be an incredible passer. He's always going to craft his way to the free throw line, and his footwork is incredible. Also, I'm sure there's stuff that's going to age. But maybe the durability, his trademark durability might go away. But I don't know. It's tough to gauge that.
I'm totally with you. I think to me, I see his game. I think he has to change. As he gets older, he'll start to change and be back to being more off ball and being used more like a Reggie Miller, where he's running off of screens and sort of being used in more creative ways than just I'm going to handle the ball and try to break down my man. Because as he starts to get old, he's going to lose a lot of the quickness to get the first step in, right? But I think he does have the tools to age gracefully in the NBA. It's just a matter of mentally whether or not he wants to do it. Like, I thought Carmelo had the perfect tools to age gracefully into the NBA, which he is now. But the couple of years where he fought against it were very hard to watch.
Like AP, they said I had to come off the bench and stuff like that. Like Melo had to. He even admitted this year, like he had to change his mindset. Like,
and now he's fantastic. To me, the best version of Melo was always the Team USA Melo, playing off ball, catch and shoot, go to the basket. Like, to me, the Team USA Carmelo Anthony was the best version of Carmelo Anthony, and someone that I would love to have on a team. The Knicks, give me the ball and let me ISO Carmelo, not so much.
I mean, it did work for a 54.
It did. And I, again, I'm not saying it like this is a bad thing, and I just don't think it's the ideal way you use Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. It'll be interesting to see how Harden ages. Just because of what he's had the ball in his hands for so long, but you see early in his OKC days where he was also more willing to be a slasher, hit you with the floater game. He had mid range.
That was the best version of Harden to me.
Look at James Harden's last 2 years these last 3 years of Harden in Houston, and look at Harden's first 2 years after he got traded to Houston. Like, it's still a different player. Just stylistically, how he approaches the game and how he's mastered the game. But I think he will at some point have to dial that back. But right now, he's still really good.
He's still cooking. And so we talked about the Nets earlier. If I'm the Nets, looking at the roster we had, I don't know if I give up Karis LeVert, Jared Allen, and Dinwiddie for Harden. I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't have either. I would have liked to see what this team looked like go for the year.
But like, that was something we talked about a couple weeks ago, and like, the more I see this Nets team together, the more I see the depth, the more I see how well the depth works with Kyrie and Durant. And the more I see Kyrie and Durant kind of just cook people in the way that their offense flows, I don't know if adding Harden to the mix is the right call. And I don't know if trading the depth for Harden is the right call. And so
I agree. And also, just another note on Kyrie. This is the healthiest Kyrie has looked since his Cavalier days, honestly. Like, he looks good. Physically, he looks good. His burst is back to pre-injury or last year of the Cavaliers Kyrie. Like, and when he's right, he's one of the very best offensive players in the league. And just having those two on the floor at the same time, like in crunch time, the Nets ran. It was a little clunky, but it ended up being a Durant and Kyrie pick and roll, and Kevin Durant caught it on the pick and pop. He drove baseline and had a very Kevin Durant shot to tie the game that he has made. We have seen him make it 10,000 times in his life, and he barely missed it. And you could just see the stuff the Nets are going to be cooking with. And I wouldn't trade if I were the Nets, I would just leave the team as is as well. Speaking of, teams that have made moves and wanting to, possibly making moves or staying pat. What have you made so far about, the Phoenix Suns? And have you watched any of their games? I've watched
every NBA game so far.
Right.
There's not that many.
Yeah. What have been your first takeaways from the Suns so far? They've played the Mavericks, and then they've played the Sacramento Kings twice.
They look really good, they look really good.
Yeah, I can't wait to see when they're clicking on all cylinders.
To me, they're just going to get better. Booker's been off to start the season, in my opinion. He's been looking a little shaky.
Yeah.
But I think DeAndre Ayton's been playing out of his mind. Markel Bridges looks great.
Mikal Bridges, that's the one I want to touch on. Like,
he looks fantastic.
He's back to he's taking in 3 games so far. He's taken nearly 7 threes a game. And if any of you watched him at Villanova, he caught and shot threes with no hesitation, off movement, off pin downs, spot up, even a little off the dribble, although he could get away with that in college because he's not really an off the dribble player at all. He was a dead eye shooter. And then for some reason, and like with Brandon Clark going on right now in Memphis, for some reason going into the summer, like for Mikal Bridges going into that draft, he started changing his shot and his shot looked really weird. And for the first 2 seasons with the Suns, he was hesitant, wasn't as quick triggery with his threes. He shot 33% his rookie year, 36% his sophomore year, but very low attempts. He barely took 3 a game last year. Now it looks like he's back to Villanova Mikal Bridges as a shooter. And if that sustains for the Suns this year, the Suns are going to have a different dynamic that can possibly change this team. I was talking about the Suns are my high octane team. Mikal Bridges going back to being a Villanova 45% from 3 Mikal Bridges. That's the nitrous oxide the Suns need to be able to vault them, maybe a little bit further past expectations, because he's a terror on defense. Luka Doncic was having fits with Mikal Bridges on opening night, and that was actually the case last year. Whenever the Suns played the Mavericks, they would stick Mikal Bridges on Luka, and Luka, you're not going to slow down Luka, but Mikal Bridges is long. He's very good laterally, and he's a very smart off-ball defender. He's a complete package as a defender, and with his 3, he's been pumping and driving now, finishing at the rim. Like the Suns have, and again, it kills me because the Sixers fucking traded this guy for
peanuts.
For peanuts, pretty much. Like, I mean, I'm not going to get into that trade. I'll talk about it later. But Mikal Bridges is a very good NBA player, and I am mad again that the Sixers don't have him.
Yeah, he looks fantastic. And the thing is too, and we talked about it last week or whenever we did the prediction episode, Jay Crowder is an underrated pickup.
Oh, absolutely.
And the combination of Bridges and Crowder, for someone like Luka, where you have to deal with Markel Bridges, and then he goes on the bench, you're like, thank God he's out of here. And then they switch Jay Crowder on you, and he just goes shit. It's like the LeBron meme of Kawhi coming into the game of like, shit, he's coming in here. Yeah. And it's like, man, they have the wing defense there, and then you're funneling them into DeAndre Ayton.
Well, they have not just the wing defense, but you have the guard defense too. Like Chris Paul picking you up 94 feet, but then Javon Carter comes in, and you're just like, damn it! Like,
and then they have high energy guys. They have Cam Johnson coming off the bench too. The thing, they have there's so many tools.
And Cam Johnson was a key player in their deadly lineups last year.
Like, and so the depth of this roster is awesome, and I love what they look like. I do think
you could clearly see they're trying to figure each other out, but
it still looks good when it clicks. It looks really good, and I would think that this is going to continue throughout the season. We're still really early, I keep saying.
And DeAndre Ayton's not going to keep getting 8 shots a game like he has been so far. I think his chemistry with Chris Paul is still being ironed out a little bit. I've seen Chris Paul in Ayton's ear a few times during Suns games, talking about what I'm assuming is, the right angles, where to be on the court and stuff like that. So I think Ayton is still trying to search himself out a little bit, but I think once everything gets clicking, this Suns team is going to be really good. I'm
sticking by my conference final Suns pick.
That would, with the ceiling they have, that wouldn't surprise me. Or that, honestly, I still need to. I want to see how the Clippers look throughout the season and how many games Paul George and Kawhi decide to play. Before I say, because I still think it's Lakers Clipper. I think it's Lakers, then I think Grand Canyon, and then Clippers, and then probably the Sun.
Lakers look scary.
The Nuggets. I want to see 10 to 15 games of Michael Porter Jr. first of all, but also they have some real problems defensively.
This happened last year too, where the Nuggets last year started out really slow.
Yeah, no, it is true, but I want to see how
Porter
they
take a jump.
Not only Porter take a jump, but Jeremy Grant, while everybody overrated him, and I certainly love Jeremy Grant too, he was their best defender, like on the perimeter. And I think there is a huge hole on the perimeter. Like the Nuggets let the Kings get whatever the hell they wanted, especially in the second half of their home opener on Friday.
The ending, though, was insane.
The ending was insane. It was bonkers. And then, of course, they absolutely get plastered on Christmas Day by the Clippers. And that's probably what most of us thought how the series would go when they played in the bubble. But it's 3 games in, I know, but I'm already starting to see some troubling trends with the Nuggets. Of course, they still have Jokic. Murray, that was the other big question with him. It was like, okay, playoff Murray is great. And if he performs in the playoffs and plays just like good Jamal Murray during the regular season, but becomes superstar Murray in the playoffs, then in a weird way, I think that max contract is worth it because that shows that he performs when everything's on the table. But I did want to see Murray kind of be like, okay, I am one of the best players in this league. I would hope he would have came out to a better start, but he's kind of been flat. So I'm just tracking the Nuggets. That's all I'm going to say.
So just news coming in. Anthony Davis and LeBron are playing tonight, but Caruso isn't because of the NBA's health and safety protocols. There's rumors that he tested positive for COVID. So that's not good. And then also Ja just rolled his ankle really bad. So
yeah, we're recording this while the
while games are going on.
Well, yeah, the early part of the games are going on.
Ja looks that he rolled it real bad. So we'll see what happens. He's not playing right now, so we'll see what happens.
Well, damn, that's gonna be huge for that's obviously huge for the Grizzlies. I thought Ja was looking primed to.
Yeah, his duel with Trae Young yesterday was fantastic.
Based on how Ja was playing in the preseason too, like he would look like he was ready to like stake claim as like a top 25, top 20 NBA player. I know Bill Simmons went on his, within Bill Simmons fashion, bold predictions like Ja Morant's going to be a top 15 player. I'm not going to agree with that, but I could see why. Like obviously,
I understand.
It's obvious. Like Ja Morant,
right now, the league is stacked.
Morant. The league is stacked with young talent. Like that's why I had to make tiers with players because you know how. So like I'm sure you've had this before in your years of consuming basketball content, but like you ever listen to podcasts and people just say like this
top
guy's
10,
playing like
15.
No, not just top 10, you know, because there's different levels to it. It's like this guy's playing like a top 5 NBA player, and top 5 usually implies like, okay, those are the guys, like the franchise guys, right? But then you listen to a bunch of podcasts, and next thing you know, there's like 9 fucking players in the top 5.
Yeah,
you're just like which one? So now I think the league is so deep and talented that we kind of have to readjust how we judge these players.
This is why we had the conversation the other day with Paul George. And it's not like, again, we had that big discussion. It's not like we were discussing like I think Paul George is a bottom tier player and you think he's a top tier player. We argued if he was top 20 or top 15. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're super far apart, but that's kind of the margin that we're in where the league is stacked. And the difference between where each player is on these lists is so nuanced and so different where it's something that you do have to write down and really think about before you talk about it. I think
eventually we're going to have to also reconcile with the fact that like because there's so much talent in the league, like sometimes teams are going to have down years. Like I think Trae Young is a really great offensive player. I think he's a star player, and I understand why people want to hold the wins and losses against him because again, he's literally the worst guard defender in the NBA and stuff like that. But he's a talented player too, and he's someone that I could see myself if I was a GM, I'd build my franchise around because I think his offensive talent is that special because not only he has the range, but he is already a top 6, top 7 passer. Like, and that might be selling him short. Like, there's just a bunch of good players in the league right now. The league is very, very stacked. Like Brandon Ingram, for example, which I do want to talk
about the Pelicans.
Brandon Ingram, for example, like, and a chance to bring up our weekly Lonzo Ball quota. But Brandon Ingram has been awesome to start the season. And, he's coming off of that big extension, very well earned. But the guy's averaging 26 points, almost 7 assists. It seems to maybe he might be primed for another leap in playmaking. His rebounds are up as well. But that shooting, that was the main thing that we wanted to see. Is that off the dribble shooting? Is that 3-point shooting going to stick? And so far, it is. He's not going to shoot 47% from 3. I don't think he's that type of a shooter. Although, if he did shoot like that, I'd obviously have to eat crow. But he's kind of he's turning into the player that
we thought he was going to be.
Maybe people saw coming out of Duke, and why guys like Kevin O'Connor had him ranked ahead of Ben Simmons, or one of the few people who ranked Brandon Ingram ahead of Ben Simmons. And, that conversation is always interesting to me because part of it is what you value, right? And I think with if Ingram keeps this level of playmaking and rebounding while keeping his scoring and shooting up, I think by the end of this season, you might have to put him ahead of Ben Simmons, especially if the Pelicans are going to be winning games and are in the playoffs.
Right. So I'm of the argument, my thing was always, and as a Laker fan, my thing was always, Ben Simmons is the better player, but I think Ingram's ceiling is higher than people think. Like the gap was closer than people think it is.
Yeah.
And it became a thing of like, Ben Simmons is one of the best players in the NBA and Brandon Ingram is a bust. And it's like, no, it's not.
Well,
like,
how people do when they argue extremes. They have their flag planted on one side. They're not moving, Yeah,
and you're like, no, there's a lot to Brandon Ingram's game. If you watch him play, there's a lot here where you're like, if he can get more consistent, he's going to be a monster. And so for him to do this now, especially with Zion's playing extremely well too. He's averaging 22.4 points. He's averaging, I think, like 7 rebounds a game. He has high efficiency numbers too. And the most important thing to me, he's playing 29 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Like he's looking he's playing like 30 points or 36 minutes a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's great. He's looking like a monster. And I think that if all of these guys continue to progress this way, to me, the biggest thing watching Pelicans game is the addition of Steven Adams.
Yeah. He's kind of I still think they need to figure out like a good balance of, playing those two apart, Zion and Adams apart. Because even together, like you could see it works sometimes, but they still get in each other's way. But I understand why the Pelicans got Adams. Like they were terrible defensively. It was a fucking layup line in the bubble. Like they were not good defensively. And Steven Adams, I think, has always been underrated offensively, just in terms of like touch. Like if you get him catching the ball on the move, like he has a nice little one-handed hook shot that he can, or floater that he could get off in the paint. Like, he could be a decent passer. I think the fact that he was Russell Westbrook's teammate in Oklahoma City, we didn't get to see the type of stuff people were gushing about when he was coming out of Pitt, when he was more of a raw player. But that's still a decent pickup. I do want to see if this trend kind of happened in the bubble, but remember before the bubble, the Pelicans with Zion in the lineup were demolishing teams. I think it was like a plus 19 net rating or something like that. In the bubble, it was bad. They were like minus 1,000 when Zion was on the court. And, part of that's the bubble. Part of that, I think Gentry wanted, I think Gentry was on his way out, but that was still troubling. And the trend so far, Zion's only a +2 when he's on the court. When he's on the court, and I want to see those lineups kind of get back to more of how effective they were pre-bubble last year. But they're still 2-1, which is a decent start. They still have Lonzo Ball, who he's come alive. He's struggling from 3 the last 2 games, but that shot looks repeatable as hell. It's the best it's ever looked. He's shooting it with confidence, and I think teams are actually starting to get the memo now. Like, okay, maybe we should close out a little bit more. Like, I still don't think they're gonna leave him I still don't think they're gonna freak out. Like, say, like if Steph Curry was coming off of or Seth Curry even, or a good shooter like that was coming off of a dribble handoff or something like that. But now they respect Lonzo's shooting more, and I just think
it opens up the game. It really does.
Yeah, it really does. And I want to see maybe the Pelicans start playing more Ingram by himself and with bench units, so maybe the bench could be helped out a little bit, because I think Zoe and Zion, they have such a synergy with each other that lineups with them in it last year were killing teams as well pre-bubble. And maybe because if you look at the combinations, Zion and Ingram haven't quite figured out each other yet, especially when you look at lineup data and just watching the games. So maybe we'll see Stan stagger them that way. The Pelicans, they're one of the most interesting teams in the NBA to me, because I thought I had a read on them last year, and then some of their moves have been interesting this offseason, just in terms of who they let go and who they got. So the thing
that I didn't recognize forever, I don't know why, and watching them play, the addition of Eric Bledsoe as an off-ball cutting guard for Lonzo,
that helps.
Huge.
That helps.
So much space. It gives Lonzo another outlet to throw to. And again, once Bledsoe gets it on the cut, he's able to find guys and kick if needed. And he's finding Adams and Zion for easy put-ins, like just easy drop-offs. And you're like, wow.
The thing with Bledsoe is like he's still a good regular season player. Like, yeah. Bledsoe, like the Pelicans could do worse than Eric Bledsoe. Like, I mean, going from Drew Holiday to Eric Bledsoe is like, I mean, it's a downgrade, obviously.
You're flipping from offense to defense, or defense to offense there. Like, you're just
like you could do worse. And I mean, playoffs, obviously different story, but the Pelicans definitely, they have some interesting pieces. And I also want to see if not the game has passed by Stan Van Gundy, but see if he learned anything from Detroit. Hopefully, him and David Griffin seem to be on the same page. There's no coach GM chicanery going on there. Like when Stan was also the coach and the president of basketball operations in Detroit. So, we'll see. The Pelicans have an interesting team as well. It seems like there's a lot of interesting storylines going on this time around. Especially this is going to be one of the weirdest seasons of all time. So, and we're already kind of getting some not weird trends, but like at the start of the season, there's always some like, that was a nice little surprise. But yeah, the Pelicans are very interesting. I'm sorry.
I said like the Knicks beating the Bucks, or like
that was wild. Like I haven't watched that game yet, or how it got to that point, but that was
Julius Randle, man. I'm not even joking.
Yeah, no, I think he had like 29 points or something like that. Like, is spinning to his heart's content, I assume. I didn't watch the game, but hopefully he had a bunch of spin moves. But also, weird things like the Sixers getting absolutely annihilated by the Cavs. There's just things going on in the NBA season. The Pistons look like they're going to be as fucking terrible as I
still don't know what they're doing. They should have just kept Jello just to make people watch.
Yeah, I know that would have brought more viewership to that city, because because everybody was all high off the preseason. I think the Pistons were 2-1 or something, 3-1 in the preseason, and it's like, yeah, okay, don't get hype off preseason. Like this team is still terrible. How do you quick temperature check, I guess, to start the season for you? What are your first impressions of your Lakers? Not to I loathe bringing the Lakers into this podcast for discussion, but they're the champions.
They look exactly what I thought they were going to be. I mean, they looked like they didn't give a shit on opening day.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
They looked like they were still happy about their rings on opening day, and as expected, they came out flat. They looked horrible, and I think I tweeted about it too. They came back in that third quarter to tie the game up after being down by like 20 something, and I think I tweeted about it like, I will hope we lose this game. Like this is the kind of game it's something that the Lakers do and good teams do all the time, where they feel like they can turn it on, and so they come out sluggish and lethargic, and then they turn it on and they end up winning the game. And I hate games like that because it just teaches bad habits, right?
Yep.
So like, those are the games that I love to lose. Those are the games where I'm like, please just let us get our ass kicked so that we can just wake up and be fine the rest of the year, or at least like, you know, understand that we can't do that. And so yeah, losing that game's great, and then coming out, the bench looks fantastic. Kuz is playing well. He's playing within his role. He's playing smart. He's doing what he's supposed to do. Schroeder's doing great, taking pressure off LeBron.
Schroeder and Harrell are already. They already have a chemistry. I mean, it was easy to see, but Schroeder and Harrell already have a little chemistry going there. Like,
yeah,
when LeBron and Anthony Davis go, the minutes where LeBron and Anthony Davis are off the floor, I think the Lakers are going to be fine, at least could tread water a lot more easier. It's like getting playoff, like Kevin O'Connor said in his power rankings today. It's like getting playoff Rondo, but all playoff or all regular season.
It's fantastic, and so having that, especially now, like you can tell early in the season, LeBron's not really trying that hard.
He was trying shit in the Christmas game. That shit was so funny.
Like he's not actually. I'm convinced LeBron still thinks it's preseason. Okay,
like, my guy airballed a free throw, then took a one-legged deep 3-point shot and badly missed it, and then he tried to fire a pass. I don't know who was rolling to the basket, but he like fired this nonchalant one-hander and it just flew out of bounds. Like, he's fucking around.
Yeah, and so I was joking with my dad. I was like, dude, did LeBron pick up a basketball in the past 3 months? Like, is he just...
No, I don't think he did.
I was like, yo,
I think he said that on the road tripping podcast.
I was like, did he body swap with Bronny? Did he get attacked by the Monstars? Like, what's going on? But yeah, I mean, the thing is that he's not trying that hard, but he's still averaging 20 points a game. Like, it's not like...
I know, it's wild.
And it's funny too. Cavs Film Room, I think, tweeted the other day of like, I've been covering LeBron every game of LeBron's career for the last 16 years or whatever. And
I saw that tweet.
And
too.
And let me tell you,
he's coasting.
He's coasting. This is the most I've ever seen him coasting. And you're like, all right, I trust the LeBron expert, but as just a basketball person, you can tell he's not fully engaged.
He's coasting, but like we've always said, by the time the playoffs roll around,
the thing is, that's scary to me is the Lakers look so good now, and half of their team isn't in form.
Yeah, and Marc Gasol was just dishing yesterday.
Dude,
Timberwolves.
There's a tweet that I was laughing at so hard. It was like, I'm convinced Marc Gasol could throw a perfect bounce pass with a deflated basketball.
I saw that one. Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, just having Marc Gasol's passing just gives the Lakers something that
and it unlocks Kuz.
White never really gave. Yeah, and Kuz as a cutter, as a spot up shooter, like putting smart players around Kuzma is a good thing because in a limited role, Kuzma's a solid player.
Yeah,
especially for that contract.
Kuz's decision making is his like Achilles heel. His decision making and his playmaking ability, and so when you put him in situations where it's like, yeah,
boy, that sounds a lot like fucking Tobias Harris, who's making 5 times as much as Kuzma.
But yeah, the thing is, like, when you get Tobias Harris, is the same thing. When you get guys like that in situations where it's like, dude, don't think too much, just catch and go
and do your thing.
Like, yeah, and when you have passers like LeBron and Schroeder and Gasol all around him, he just has to move, find the open spot and go. Make your move, do your thing. And the game becomes so easy for them at that point.
We're not calling pick and rolls for you so you can get your shot go. We're not doing any of that shit. You just stay in your limited role. Speaking of limited, and by limited, I mean the players surrounding this star player. The Golden State Warriors suck.
We'll end off on the Golden State Warriors because it's depressing talking about the Golden State Warriors. They look so bad.
Oubre, I think I saw it. Kelly Oubre is 0 for 31 in non-dunk attempts so far this season.
Dude, Andrew Wiggins. I have Andrew Wiggins in our fantasy league, and he had a good game yesterday. But man, he's turning the ball over. He's missing wide open shots.
Dude, opening night. I have never seen a less confident player who was also at the same time lost and had no idea what he was doing. Like Andrew Wiggins was terrible.
Dude, so
And
for the season, he's shooting 32% from the field. This is including dunks and layups.
a very cool 32%. Shooting 30% from 3, 2 on 4 attempts per game. So if you're looking for spacing from the wing, well, no. Looking for playmaking from the wing, no. Andrew Wiggins is averaging 1.7 assists and 1.7 turnovers so far. All the things. The thing is, I don't think the Warriors look this bad, where they're getting annihilated by the Nets and the Bucks, who are championship contenders, right? Because I have the Warriors floating around the playoffs, or especially after Klay went down, but this is going to be rough. Like Eric Paschall's being asked to play small ball center, and he just gets torched every time, especially like Kyrie Irving just torched him every time he switched out onto him. I think we're going to learn a lot about Steve Kerr as a coach this year, because while I think he's a good coach, I've always thought of him in the elite tier coach. But what I'm starting to find out with him is he doesn't adjust the system to his talent. No. And he's talked about this, and he's always thinks that, the Spurs player movement, ball movement style works, but that only works when you have the personnel to do it. And even when he doesn't have the personnel, he still wants to go to that, because his philosophy is, I don't want to run just one style. But that's the best you got right now. Like, the best offense I've seen the Warriors run so far is the Steph Wiseman pick and roll. Like, that gets something every time. And it's wild because Wiseman is a rookie, because Oubre ain't getting you shit. Wiggins is bricking everything and getting torched on the defensive end. Paschall's getting blasted. And then you have guys like Damian Lee coming off.
They needed a game winner the other night to beat the Bulls.
And they needed 35 or 36 from Steph just to stay in it. Steph went berserk in the fourth quarter. Like, this team, they're not. Just give me by like game 10. Like, if I don't see any, like, okay, they're not this bad, like, I have to have them out of the playoffs, even with Draymond coming back. Like, I just think the talent is also just young and too raw, and also in Wiggins' case, just flat out awful. I know I said LaMelo was gonna win Rookie of the Year going away, and I still stick by that. I still think that there's a lot of growth, from what I've seen, I haven't seen anything that tells me otherwise. But I do think if the Warriors continue to be bad and Wiseman keeps trending in this way, and he's just going to get more minutes and more playing time, and he could sneak in there. Oh, absolutely. Because he, like we were saying earlier,
he's their only bright spot.
He's really their only bright spot. And you throw in Brad Wanamaker to back up Steph. He's been not good. Like, this whole I guess the bright spot for the Warriors is they have a top 3 protected pick from Minnesota this year. Then they have their own lottery pick. So there could be a chance. So there's a universe where the Warriors could get the number 1 pick and like a number 4 pick or something like that, a la New Orleans 2 summers ago.
Man, if they get Cade?
Like, if they get Cade Cunningham, like, that would be wild. And then if they get somebody with that 4th pick or 5th pick, like a Jalen Suggs or Evan Mobley or somebody like that, just having an extra luxury with an extra lottery pick. The Warriors, I still think, are in a good position. Just this season, I feel bad for Steph, man. Like,
Cade would be dirty.
Cade would be disgusting with the Warriors. He would be absolutely disgusting. And he would contribute right away. Like, I have no worries about Cade. Yeah, he's going to be a rookie. He's going to have some mistakes and stuff like that. But his game and his skill and his poise.
When you flank him with Klay and Steph.
Yeah. Like,
oh
come
my
on,
God.
man. Like, come on. Like, it's not.
Steph doesn't even need to play point guard anymore. You can just have give Cade the ball and let Steph run off screens. What are they going to do?
The only saving grace from that Wiggins-Russell trade, though, is really that Minnesota top 3 protected pick, because the Warriors wouldn't be this bad with D'Angelo Russell, like, out there. Like, no. I know they said that the Steph Russell backcourt. I just don't buy that. I think players. It was like when to a lesser degree, obviously, and kind of different circumstances. But this was the reason the Kings didn't draft Luka Doncic, because Vlade Divac was afraid that having a Doncic Fox backcourt wouldn't work. Players who can both dribble, or who can do all three of dribble, pass, and shoot, can fit together. Like those are the three.
I don't know if D'Lo has a bit of an ego coming from a Laker fan. I don't know if he can. I don't know if he would be able to.
I thought he ironed those out in Brooklyn, though. Like, he seemed to have really changed, like, his mentality going into Brooklyn and learn. Like, I know what you're saying. Like, the
he just likes to have the ball in his hand, right? Like he is a point guard.
He does like to have the ball in his hands, but he also has shown the ability to shoot off the catch. That shot,
oh sure,
you've seen his shot.
I think he's super talented. I don't disagree with his talent.
I just think like skill set fits. I would rather just have his skill set than Wiggins.
Oh, of course, night and day.
Obviously,
but my thing comes down to, like, is he going to be happy if Steph is handling the ball 70% of the time they're on the court together?
He's definitely happy playing with Karl Anthony Towns now.
Yeah, because it's so synergistically. It's the traditional NBA synergy of, like, the big and the guard, right?
Yep.
But my thing is, like, when you have Steph handling the ball most of the time, is D'Lo going to be happy playing off ball and doing that? He can do it, and he can do it in stretches and be very, very good at it. But I don't know if he'll be happy over the course of a season doing that.
Well, Steph is the most off-ball superstar ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, I would think him and, to me, Reggie Miller is, because Reggie Miller couldn't dribble worth a damn.
Well, yeah, but I mean, Steph's off-ball force, just in terms of him setting screens, and also Reggie might be the best coming off of screens, catching and shooting.
I just mean in terms of usage. Like, fucking Reggie Miller never dribbled the ball in his life.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess he's the most used.
He's the most used off-ball superstar ever.
Yeah, most used off-ball superstar ever. But I think just in terms of effectiveness, like, I think anybody would be happy playing next to Steph, just because.
Oh yeah.
Because you see right now, like, they're running a bit more pick and roll this year, but Steve Kerr just has those tendencies where he's like twitching and he's like, I haven't seen Steph run off screens in a while. Like, we got to go back to our old offense. Like,
well, the thing is,
like, the people passing Steph the ball who's running off of screens is Wiggins, Wanamaker, Wiseman sometimes with the dribble handoffs, although that's honestly the best fucking option right now. Like,
yeah.
They're still trying to do the Steph off-ball Warriors system stuff, and they don't have the players to do it. And I'm watching Kerr this year. I'm watching everything with the Warriors this year. And I also know I'm going to be pulling out the Jon Snow, pulling out the sword against an army of people, GIF, when I'm arguing with people about Steph on Twitter. I know that's what my future is going to be.
I'm sad for Steph, just because I think this season is going to have a huge effect on his legacy, and I don't think it should.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think it should either.
But I completely understand the people that are going to go at him, but I don't agree with it 100%.
I don't agree with it either. And it's a shame too, because, people are, when obviously Damian Lillard went off last year, had a career year, and he's been a great player for a long time. I'm a huge Damian Lillard fan, but you already saw, like, NBA Twitter kind of just like using Dame as a way to spear Steph out of the conversation and be like, and basically it's like confirmation bias, right? You see what you want to see, so you can confirm your own preconceived thoughts and stuff like that. So people were using Dame Lillard as like this as this catalyst to bring down Steph, and I can already see it happening this year. Like, people are like, Dame carried a crap team, even though he got booted out of the first round a few times and also got blasted in the Western Conference Finals by Steph. You could just see it's starting to turn. And Max Kellerman's just sitting back in his chair like, see, I told you about that, Steph. And I just know I know I talked about it before, but one of these days on the podcast, I'm going to have to get into the story about how I ended up at one of my fraternity brothers' birthday parties having a 30-minute argument with somebody about Steph Curry drunk, because after his unanimous MVP season, someone had the gall to say that he didn't deserve it. And so you can kind of just imagine
Yeah.
how that conversation went during the party. But yeah, I'm very I feel very bad for Steph, and the Warriors suck.
Yeah, the Warriors are really bad. Yeah, I think that's it. I think that's kind of the gist of
We kind of went all over the place.
All over the place.
We
went from the top to the bottom.
We went from the Hornets to the Cavs to the Magic, Kings, all the way to the Lakers, Warriors,
to the bottom of the barrel.
To the bottom of the barrel.
Warriors.
What you expect here at the BOB podcast? We don't just watch the big market teams.
Oh shit! Bottom of barrel is also BOB.
I mean, hey, like you'll find it you'll find this podcast at the bottom of the barrel too. No, I'm kidding. No, we're gonna hopefully rise to the top of the barrel in basketball podcasts soon. But yeah, it's a fantastic. Another real quickly before we go, another team I also want to watch, the San Antonio Spurs. They seem to have taken the philosophy of we're gonna take our young players and we're just gonna run. I was a huge Lonnie Walker fan when he came out of Miami. DeJounte Murray, now that he's fully recovered from his knee injury, he is a menace defensively.
Absolutely.
Then, of course, Derek White, he signed his extension. You still have Patty Mills. Like, you still have good players on. Like, DeMar DeRozan's a good player. He had a career year last year. I don't know if
I think
people slept on the Raptors and they're like, oh, DeRozan mid-range, he's fucking terrible. Like, analytics, he's a enemy of analytics Twitter. Although, if you look at his metrics, they were actually quite good.
The thing is, there's always a place in the league for a guy that can create his own shot, right?
Yeah, they're always, and that's
why
he's
an elite, and he's elite at that. It's just a mid-range shot, but I mean, it's still important in crunch time, and when you need a bucket, like that's a guy you trust to get you a shot.
Like, it's very much the reason why I'm not trying to toot my own horn here because I predicted the Spurs to be a play-in team. That's not really something to brag about, but I had the Spurs as one of the play-in teams with Memphis and the I might have to move the Thunder back. I was maybe overzealous on that one, especially looking at the preseason and how the one game so far where they barely beat the Hornets. But the Spurs are, Greg Popovich is still kind of adapting. And so, we'll see. We'll see.
No, totally agree. But yeah, that's going to do it this week for the BOB, Box Out Banter podcast. And we have some good slate of games coming up this next week. So we'll see you guys. See you guys next week.
The BOB.